The 12th of February, 1900, Volume 3. Voluntary defects form clouds. As I was in a state of abandonment on the part of my adorable Jesus, I felt my poor heart crushed by the pain, as though under a press. Oh God, what an unutterable pain! While I was in this state, I saw my dear God, almost like a shadow, but not clearly. I only saw one hand clearly, which seemed to carry a lamp which was lit. He dipped his finger in the lamp and anointed the area of my heart, embittered to the summit by the pain of his privation. At that moment, I heard a voice saying, "The truth is light, which the word brought upon the earth. Just as the sun illuminates, vivifies, and fecundates the earth, so does the light of truth give life and light, and it renders souls fecund with virtues. Even though many clouds obfuscate this light of truth, which are the iniquities of men, in spite of this, it does not cease to send forth glimmers of vivifying light from behind the clouds, so as to warm souls. And if these clouds are clouds of imperfection and of involuntary defects, this light, piercing them with its heat, makes them vanish, and it penetrates freely into the soul. I understood that the soul must be attentive not to fall even into a shade of voluntary defect, which are those dangerous clouds that prevent the entrance of divine light." End of the reading. The 12th of February, 1904, Volume 6. When the soul is identified with the humanity of Jesus, none of her works are dispersed. Obedience and the saints want Luisa to remain on earth as victim. Continuing in my usual state, with more suffering, Blessed Jesus came, and from all parts of his humanity, many rivulets of light came out, which communicated themselves to all the parts of my body. And from these rivulets that I received, as many other rivulets came out of myself, which communicated themselves to the humanity of our Lord. In the meantime, I found myself surrounded by a multitude of saints who, looking at me, were saying among themselves, "If the Lord does not concur with a miracle, she will no longer be able to live because she lacks the vital humours. The circulation of her blood is no longer natural. Therefore, according to the natural laws, she must die." And they were praying, Blessed Jesus, to make this miracle, that I might continue to live. And the Lord said to them, "The communications of the rivulets, as you see, means that everything she does, even the natural things, are identified with my humanity. And when I make the soul reach this point of everything that both soul and body do, nothing is dispersed. Everything remains in me. On the other hand, if the soul does not come to identify herself completely with my humanity, many works she does are dispersed. But since I made her reach this point, why can I not take her?" Now, while they were saying this, I said to myself, "It seems that everyone is against me. Obedience does not want me to die. These are praying the Lord not to take me. What do they want from me? I don't know why they want me to be on this earth almost by force, far away from my highest good." And I was all afflicted. While I was saying this, Blessed Jesus told me, "My daughter, do not afflict yourself. The things of the world are most sad, and they get worse and worse. If the point comes for me to give free vent to my justice, I will take you, and then I will no longer listen to anyone." End of the reading. The 12th of February, 1904, Volume 6. Luisa speaks with some priests about the Church of St Cataldo. I had forgotten to say what I am about to write, which I will say now out of obedience, although these are not sure things, but uncertain, because the presence of our Lord was missing. I was outside of myself, and I seemed to find myself inside a church in which there were several venerable priests and also souls from purgatory and holy people conversing among themselves about the church of St Cataldo, saying that almost with certainty it would be obtained. On hearing this, I said, how can this be? The other day it was rumoured that the chapter had lost the cause. So through the tribunal it could not be obtained. The town council does not want to give it. And you are saying that it will be obtained. And they added, in spite of all these difficulties, indeed it is not lost. If they reach the point of laying hands on it to knock it down, it still cannot be considered as lost, because St Cataldo will know well how to defend his temple. However, poor Carato, if they arrive at this. But while saying this, they repeated, they have taken away the first things. The crowned lady has already been transported to his house. You go before Our Lady and pray to her that, having started the grace, she would fulfill it. I went out of that church to go pray, but as I was doing this, I found myself inside myself. End of the reading. The 12th of February, 1906, Volume 7. The virtues make us reach a certain height, but in the divine will there are no boundaries. Effects of the mere words will of God. As I was in my usual state, I was feeling all oppressed because of the privation of my blessed Jesus. Then he came for just a little and told me, my daughter, all other virtues in the creatures build a wall of a certain height, but the wall of the soul who lives in the will of God is a wall so high and deep that neither its depth nor its height can be found. Also, it is all of pure and solid gold, not subject to any misfortune, because this wall is in the divine volition, that is, in God. God himself keeps it, and there is no power that can defy God. And the soul, while living in this divine volition, is clothed with a light all similar to the one in whom she lives, so much so that also in heaven she will shine more than all the others in such a way as to be an occasion of greater glory for the very saints. Ah, my daughter, think a little bit of what an atmosphere of peace and of goods the mere word, the will of God, contain. At the mere thought of wanting to live in this atmosphere, the soul feels already changed. She feels the divine air investing her. She feels her human being dissolved. She feels divinized. From impatient, patient. From proud, humble, docile, charitable, obedient. In some, from poor, rich. All the other virtues arise to surround like a crown this high wall, which has no boundaries, because since God has no boundaries, the soul is dissolved within God. She loses her own boundaries and acquires the boundaries of the will of God. End of the reading. 1908, Volume 8. In one day, a courageous soul does more than a timid one does in 1 year. As I was in my usual state, Blessed Jesus came for just a little and told me, my daughter, timidity represses grace and hampers the soul. A timid soul will never be good at operating great things, either for God or for her neighbour or for herself. When a soul is timid, it is as if she had her legs tied. Unable to walk freely, she always has her eyes fixed on herself and on the effort she makes in order to walk. Timidity makes her keep her eyes low, never high. In operating, she draws her strength not from God, but from herself, and therefore, instead of becoming stronger, she becomes weaker. If grace sows, it happens to it as to a poor farmer, who, after having sown or worked his little field, harvests the little or nothing. On the other hand, in one day, a courageous soul does more than a timid one does in 1 year. End of the reading. The 12th of February 1918, Volume 12, Deserted Churches and Without Ministers. Continuing in my usual state, my always lovable Jesus made himself seem so very afflicted. And I said to him, "My love, why are you so afflicted?" And he, "Ah, my daughter, when I allow that churches remain deserted, ministers dispersed, masses reduced, it means that the sacrifices are offences for me, that the prayers are insults, the adorations irreverences, the confessions amusement and without fruit. Therefore, no longer finding my glory but offences, nor any good for them, making no use of them, I take them away. But this tearing ministers away from the sanctuary means also that things have reached the ugliest point, and that the variety of scourges will multiply. How hard man is, how hard. End of the reading. The 12th of February 1928, Volume 23, Laments of the Soul. How Jesus enclosed within himself all the acts rejected by creatures and formed his kingdom. How one who possesses the Divine Fiat possesses the bilocating power and can give to God as her own what belongs to God. My poor mind keeps moving around within the endless boundaries of the Supreme Fiat, and my poor heart is in the nightmare of the harrowing pain of the privation of my beloved Jesus. Hours are centuries, nights are interminable without him. And since it is a divine pain that swoops down on my little soul, its immensity drowns me, crushes me, and I feel all the weight of an eternal pain. Oh, holy God, how can you do this? You take away from me that very life that you want me to possess. How can this be? You put me in the impossibility of to live and live dying, because the fount of your life is not in me. Ah, Jesus, come back. Do not abandon me to myself. I cannot live without life. Jesus, Jesus, how much it costs me to have known you. How many tearings you've made to my human life to give me yours. And now I live suspended. My own life I can find no more, because with your stratagems you've stolen it from me. Yours I just barely feel, but as though torn by the strong eclipse of the light of your will. So everything is over for me, and I am forced to resign myself and to feel your light through the rays of light, through the reflections that your adorable will brings me. I can endure no more. Jesus, come back to her whom you so much loved, and you told you loved, and have now had the strength to abandon. Come back once and for all, and decide not to leave me any more. But while I was pouring out my sorrow, he moved in my interior, and mitigating the light that eclipsed him, he stretched his arms toward me, clasping me tightly, and told me, "My daughter, poor little one of mine, courage. It is my will that takes its first place in you, but I must not decide not to leave you. My decision was taken when you decided not to leave me any more." Then there was a stealing of each other's lines, I yours and you mine, with this difference that before you would see me without the eclipse of the light of my fiat, as it was as though enclosed inside of me. And now, wanting to take life in you, it has overflowed outside of me. And by locating itself, it has enclosed my humanity inside its light. And therefore you feel my light through the reflections of its light. So why do you fear that I might leave you? And you must know that my humanity redid within itself all the acts rejected by creatures, that my will, in giving itself to them, wanted them to do. I redid them all, and I deposited them within myself in order to form its kingdom, waiting for the propitious time to release them from it myself and deposit them in creatures as the foundation of this kingdom. Had I not done this, the kingdom of my will could not take place in the midst of creatures, because I alone, as man and God, could make up for man and receive into myself the whole operating of a divine will that creatures were to receive and do, and communicate it through myself to them. In fact, in Eden, the two wills, the human and the divine, remained as though scowling at each other, because the human opposed the divine. All other offences were the consequence. Therefore, first I had to redo within myself all the acts opposed to the divine fiat, and let it lay its kingdom in me. If I did not reconcile these two wills scowling at each other, how could I perform the redemption? Therefore, in everything I did on earth, the first act was to re-establish the harmony, the order between the two wills, in order to form my kingdom. The redemption was the consequence of this. And so it was necessary to remove the consequences of the evil that the human will had produced, and therefore I gave most efficacious remedies, so as to then manifest the great good of the kingdom of my will. So the reflections of its light do nothing but bring you the acts that my humanity contains, so that everything might be divine will in you. Therefore be attentive in following it, and do not fear. After this, I was continuing my round in the creation to give to my Creator all the homages of the divine qualities that each created thing contains. Because since everything came out of the divine fiat, consequently it maintains their life. Even more, it is the primary act of each created thing. But while I was doing this, I thought to myself, the created things are not mine. How can I say by right, I offer you the homages of the light of the sun, the glory of the starry heavens, so forth? But while I was thinking of this, my always lovable Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, my daughter, one who possesses my will and lives in it can say by right, the sun is mine, the heavens, the sea, everything is mine. And as mine, I bring everything around the divine majesty to give him the glory that each created thing contains. In fact, is all creation perhaps not the work of my omnipotent fiat? Does its palpitating life, its vital warmth, its incessant motion that moves everything, orders and harmonizes everything, not flow within it as if the whole creation were one single act? So, for one who possesses my divine will as life, heavens, sun, seas, and everything are not things extraneous to her, but everything is her own, just as everything belongs to my fiat. In fact, she's nothing other than a birth from it that, by possessing it, has all rights over all the births from it, which is the whole creation. Therefore, by right and in truth, she can say to her Creator, I offer you all the homages of the light of the sun with all its effects, symbol of the eternal light, the glory of the immensity of heaven, and so with all the rest. To possess my will is divine life that the soul carries out within herself. So, Everything that comes out of her contains power, immensity, life, love. We feel in her our bilocating power. That bilocating us places all our divine qualities in attitude, and she offers them to us as her own, as divine homages worthy of the divine fiat that knows how to and can bilocate itself in order to call back the creature to the first act of creation, which is, let us make man in our image and likeness. End of the reading. The 12th of February 1933, Volume 31. God possesses by nature the creator's strength, necessity of love, God, voluntary prisoner of the creature, the divine fisherman, daily fishing. I was continuing my act in the divine volition, and I found a powerful strength that fascinated me, unified me, and identified me in the same divine works. I can say that my being was so shrunk that it was lost in the immense sea that I felt overflow inside and outside of me. Its eternal waves threw me up and plunged me down. I felt the divine life more than my own. My always lovable Jesus, who knocks down and raises up, who gives death and at the same instant makes new life arise, visiting his little daughter, told me, "Blessed daughter, our love is exuberant, and for however more we give, more we want to give to creatures. Rather, in giving, our love flowed out from us on all sides, and he wanted to drown them with our love, with our sanctity, with our beauty, with our light, and with our goodness. However much more we give, more in us grows the passion of loving them and of making ourselves loved. Must know that our Supreme Being possesses by nature the creative strength. Now, in creating creation, we did alone without the creature. But after it was created, our love was so great toward her that we wanted to continue to develop the creative strength together with her. And while with conserving creation, it is as if we were creating it in act, this creative strength unifies and invests souls and continues the creation in the interior of each one. And what do we create? New heavens of love, new suns of knowledges, new seas of graces, new air of sanctity, new winds of refreshment that embalm the creature, new ever-growing life of our own divine will, new flowers of beauty, of holy desires. In sum, our creative virtue echoes in souls the echo of the creation of all things, and with a wisdom and goodness all our own, we always create without ever stopping. If we were to stop, which cannot be, we would restrict this creative nature of ours that has the virtue of always creating. But with all this, our divine height abases itself much. We descend into the depth of the creatures, and there together we develop our creative virtue. We do not want to do it alone. Solitude would break our arms and would put a limit to our creative strength and virtue. We, in order to be able to love more, have formed for ourselves a law of love and have created in ourselves the need of love, so that love is necessity in us, but wanted necessity, not forced by anyone. And it is this necessity of love that makes us do so many unheard of things, makes us give into excesses and follies toward creatures. It would have been absurd and not the ways of a perfect being that we are to create things and living beings and not love them. On the contrary, first we love them, we let our love flow as prime act, and then we put them forth to the light as birth, outpouring, and triumph of our love. If this could not be, creation would have been in an insupportable weight for us, and not of glory and of honour. Things that do not love each other flee each other. On the other hand, we love them so much that we enclose ourselves in them, making ourselves voluntary prisoners in order to form our divine life in the creature and to fill her with ours, or however much she is capable of. And in order that we would love her more and with more love, we want that she know it, and we want her in our company in order to do what she sees and touch with her own hand what we are working. And as we develop our divine life in her soul, our love does not rest. And according to the disposition and cooperation of the creature, now we develop the creative strength, now the redemptive, now the sanctifying, according to her needs and the correspondence that she gives to us. But all this always together with her, never alone. We want to use the creative virtue, but we want that she knows it and receives it. We want to use the redemptive virtue if sin tyrannizes her, but we want that she feel the good that we want to make her and receive it with love and gratitude. We want to use the sanctifying virtue, but we want that she lend herself to receiving the transformation of our holy acts in hers in order to receive our sanctifying virtue. If the soul doesn't remain together with us and doesn't unite her little work to our great work, it would be for us as if we wanted to develop our work of love over inanimate things that neither feel nor know anything of the good that they receive. And for them he would be as a distant God whom they neither know nor love. You must know that our love is so great that all creatures swim and are inside of this immense sea of our love. And as if we were not contented with so much immensity of this love of ours, our Supreme Being acts as a fisherman and goes fishing for the tiny little drops of love from creatures, their little acts, their little sacrifices, the pain suffered for our love, and one I love you from the heart that she has told us. We fish for all from inside our same sea in order to take the contentment, the happiness of being reciprocated with love by the creature. And we crave it so much that we make of it our daily fishing and prepare our celestial table. True love has the virtue of transforming things. It places a sweet enchantment to our divine pupils and renders the little loving acts of creatures beautiful, gracious, and pleasant to us in a way that enraptures us, wounds us, and makes us happy. We make ourselves enraptured, making of her our most welcome conquest. Therefore, if you want to make us happy and be bearer to your good of joys and of happiness, love, always love. Don't ever stop loving us. And in order to be more secure, enclose all of yourself in the Divine Fiat that will let nothing escape from you that is not love for your Creator. End of the reading. There are no more readings today.